Hello everyone, my name is Patrick Woods. I'm Managing Director of Linwoods Health Foods. I want to thank all our listeners for joining us and welcome you all to this webinar where we'll be talking about the power of small changes to your diet for a healthier you. At Linwoods, we recognise it's the small things we do every day that make the biggest differences to our health. In January, we are introducing our One Small Change campaign. We are providing a hub of information including tools and tips to support your health, energy levels, and immune system. Check out our Wellness Hub and social media channels for more great advice. I'm delighted to host this webinar on the power of small changes to your diet for a healthier you, and we are very fortunate to be joined today by one of the UK and Ireland's most prominent gut health experts, Dr Alan Desmond. I'd like to welcome Dr Alan on, who's joining us imminently. While Dr Alan logs on, here we are.
Hi, great to see you, Patrick. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear and see you perfectly. Thank you.
Great. Sorry for the low position of the camera there. We were trying to figure that out beforehand. But I think you can see me okay there. Wonderful. Thanks so much for inviting me. I'm really looking forward to it, and also looking forward to meeting your dad tomorrow for a lovely dinner in Exeter. So he's coming over to visit us for a live event we're doing in Exeter. So I'm getting to meet the whole family this week, which is lovely.
Yeah. Well, two of us anyway. So yeah, he's really looking forward to meeting you in person as well. So look, it's a real pleasure to have you on with us today, and I'm really looking forward to a discussion and learning from your vast knowledge and your experience on both from a medical perspective and from a nutritional background. So I'm looking forward to get started.
Absolutely. Well, look, let's get into it. So today I'm going to be giving you all 10 prescriptions for better health. And I want to get your pen and papers ready because we're going to get through this in about 15 or 20 minutes. I'm going to give you 10 easy, actionable things that you can do in 2024 to improve your health. And there are some huge benefits up for grab. In fact, the food that we eat is the #1 determinant of our health and longevity. So we should all be thinking about this every single day. As a doctor and a gastroenterologist, I have become a firm advocate, as you may have seen from the bio advertising this event, of a healthy, whole food, plant predominant approach to food. So what does that mean? It means whole food, cooking your own food at home, or choosing meals that look like they were cooked at home on a daily basis most of the time, and building your meals from foods like fruits and vegetables and whole grains and beans and legumes and leafy greens and herbs and spices. Choosing plants first, allowing the fresh plants on your plate to not completely replace all of the animal products like the meat and dairy unless you want to, but certainly crowding those foods out. So we are filling most of our plate and most of our shopping basket on a day-to-day basis with these healthy, unprocessed plants. So that's what I mean by a whole food, plant predominant approach to food. Like I said, the gains available here are huge. So for example, people who describe their diet as plant-based are 50% less likely to get heart disease, 70% less likely to get type 2 diabetes, 30% less likely, perhaps up to 80% less likely to develop colon cancer. And according to the best available estimates we have, if we could click a magic switch and get everybody on earth eating like this and with access to these healthy, health-promoting foods, and get everybody eating an unprocessed or minimally processed plant-predominant diet, we could prevent more than 12 million preventable deaths every single year on Earth due to reduced risk of things like heart disease and obesity, type 2 diabetes, and various cancers. But we could also prevent hundreds of millions of visits to the cath lab, to have coronary artery bypasses, colonoscopies, chemotherapy courses. So the benefits up here are huge. Over the next 15 minutes or so, I'm going to give you 10 prescriptions for better health that are going to help you to make a success of your healthy dietary change. Prescription number one, to eat a diversity of plants. So learn to cook a broad diversity of different fruits, vegetables, legumes, and whole grains. Now, in the past, you may have depended on like a narrow range of plants to fill the veg section on your plate. Bestsellers like broccoli, courgettes, cucumbers, and potatoes are fantastic. But to increase the variety of plants on your plate, I want you to broaden your choices. So you want to explore the fruit and vegetable section, the herbs and spices section, and build the diversity of your plants. A simple way to keep a count on this is to simply count the different plants that you've eaten today. So if you have eaten a banana, apple, an orange, some baby leaf lettuce, some chickpeas, some legumes, some cilantro or coriander, that's 7 plants that I've eaten today. Excuse me. And if you can get to the point where you are eating 30 different plants per week, you are giving your body, your gut, and your gut microbiome a great diversity of plants. In fact, you'll be getting a better plant diversity than 95% of people in high-income countries. So that's number one. Build the diversity of plants in your diet, aiming for 30 different plants per week. Prescription number 2, ditch the junk. Now, the term ultra-processed food is very much in the public spotlight at the moment, thanks to the book by Dr. Van Tulleken that came out earlier this year, Ultra-Processed People. So the food industry has been using the term ultra-processed food to describe mass-produced cakes and pastries, packaged crisps, soft drinks, chocolates, instant noodles, chicken nuggets, meatballs, for many, many years, ultra-processed food. The more common term for these products is junk food. And when I think about junk food, I put the emphasis on junk. This is junk, not food. Sadly, in 2018, a large study showed that across the UK and Ireland, we are now getting more than 50% of our calories from these highly processed junk foods, and only 1/3 of calories from foods in their natural, unprocessed state. Alarmingly, 20% of people are now getting a massive 80% of their calories from these ultra processed foods. Why is that a bad thing? Because when you're depending on these products for your calories, it means you're missing out on the benefits of healthy whole foods. You're not getting the fiber, the phytonutrients, the antioxidants, while you're also increasing your intake of added sugars, added unhealthy fats, and salt. You add to that the artificial flavors, sweeteners, and emulsifiers that make these junk foods taste great, but are very bad news for our health and very bad news for our gut health in particular. And it becomes very clear why this junk food obsession is causing so much harm. Now, I'm not saying that you absolutely have to eat a 100% junk food free diet. Everybody likes a treat every now and then, but it should very much be a rare event. Certainly not 80% of your calories, which it is for 20% of people right now. Prescription number 3. This is simple. This is the one that Mr. John Woods would very much approve of. It is eat whole grains every day. Whole grains. So it's not just about whole grain bread and high fiber breakfast cereal. I want you to explore everything the whole grain world has to offer. Barley, brown rice, millet, oats, freekeh, buckwheat, even popcorn is a whole grain. Breakfast is a great time to get your whole grains in. So, overnight oats, porridge, great start today. Great way to get your whole grains in. Now, when you're looking at evidence as to what someone should eat, you need to look at the scientific studies on the benefits of eating certain foods. Now, I'm going to give you a quote from one of the biggest scientific reviews ever carried out on the effect of consuming whole grains on a daily basis. I've got this in front of me on screen now, so I get it right. Whole grain intake is linked with reduced risk of coronary heart disease, cardiovascular disease, and total cancer, and death from all causes, respiratory diseases, infectious diseases, diabetes, and death due to all non-cardiovascular, non-cancer causes. In a nutshell, eating whole grains every day substantially increases your risk of still being hale and hearty and happy and well in 10 years' time. Prescription number 4, which is a little bit linked to prescription number 3, but needs to be said. A healthy diet does not involve avoiding carbohydrates. In fact, a healthy whole food diet is the opposite of a low carb diet. I want you to embrace whole carbohydrates. So when I say whole carbohydrates, again, I'm talking about things like oats and brown rice and whole grains, but also bananas, strawberries, apples, potatoes, sweet potatoes. All of these foods are terrific sources of whole unprocessed carbohydrates, and avoiding them can leave you feeling hungry and lethargic. These whole carbohydrate foods promote healthy metabolism, promote good gut health, promote satiety, promote appetite control, promote weight loss, and in the long term, going for a low carb diet, which eliminates these foods, can actually put you at risk of a lot of health problems. So healthy whole carbohydrates are definitely on the menu for a healthy diet. Sweets and sugars and croissants and cakes are highly processed carbohydrates, whole other thing. Yes, minimize those. But when it comes to whole carbohydrates, when we look at the longest lived populations in the world, we see that those populations may be getting 50, 60, or 70% of the calories from healthy whole carbohydrates. Okay, I hope you're all still with me for prescription number 5. Prescription number 5 is choose your protein wisely. Now, there's an enduring myth that we don't get any protein from healthy plant-based foods like fruits and vegetables and legumes and beans and greens, even broccoli. All of these plants contain a lot of protein and a great variety of amino acids. So, for example, when I wrote a exclusively plant-based cookbook a couple of years ago, the recipes contain surprisingly a lot of protein. For example, we have like a summer veg and white bean pasta, contains 35 grams of protein per portion. Rosti pie with braised cabbage and peas. You're thinking, where's the protein? It's in the cabbage, potato, and peas. 24 grams of protein per serving. So I love to bake and cook a kind of traditional Irish brown soda bread. How much protein? About 26 grams of protein per slice. So you don't have to depend on plant-based products in order to get your protein in. In fact, if for people who eat a very healthy plant-based or plant-predominant diet, they're going to be getting about 70 to 100 grams of protein per day without even counting. And this is really important because study after study after study tells us that, number one, getting enough protein in your diet is super important. But once you're getting enough protein, the higher the proportion of that protein that's coming from plants rather than meat and dairy, the healthier you're going to be in the long term. So embrace those healthy, high protein plant-based foods, particularly things like legumes, your beans, lentils, chickpeas, etc. So prescription number 6, know what your vitamin B12 level is and consider taking a supplement. Now, vitamin B12 is a really important vitamin for humans. It's made by certain soil bacteria. For ancient humans, because everything was dirty, there was vitamin B12 in everything. Whatever they ate, if it was an animal, vegetable, plant, or rock, they were getting B12 because there was soil in it. Back in ancient times, vitamin B12 was even in the drinking water. We actually need very little vitamin B12. But because our lives are so sanitized now and our water is clean, which is a good thing, we don't automatically get vitamin B12 unless we are taking a supplement or eating something like meat or chicken or beef. But in fact, because the 98% of the animals that are used for beef, chicken, and other meats like that, they don't live in their natural environment either. So they're given a B12 supplement. Vitamin B12 absorption reduces as we get older. So if you are over 50, you should know what your vitamin B12 level is, because there's about a 36% chance that you may be vitamin B12 deficient. If you eat a plant-exclusive diet, so you're not getting any of the vitamin B12 supplements that are given to chickens and cows and pigs, then you should be taking a vitamin B12 supplement. Deficiency is common, and can cause fatigue, anemia, and problems with your immune health. So you should know what your vitamin B12 level is, particularly if you're over 50 or you're eating a plant exclusive or plant predominant diet. Prescription number 7. I hope you've got your pens and papers out for this one. Cut out the sweet stuff. Now, our primitive brains are really programmed to enjoy sweet, high-calorie foods, but there's no getting away from the fact that purified sugar is not a healthy choice. It does not help us. It hijacks our metabolism. We love the primitive kick. Humans developed in a time when calories were very, very difficult to come by. If you found a sweet piece of fruit or some honey, it was a treat. This was going to get you through the week. It would help your chances of survival. We still have that primitive attraction to these sweet foods, but we don't get the health benefits anymore. We've got plenty of other healthy foods available to us. National guidelines state that added sugars and purified sugars should only make up about 5% of our energy intake, which is about at a maximum 200 calories per day. But adults are currently eating twice this much. The average adult consuming between 12 and 15 teaspoons of added sugar per day, mostly through highly processed junk foods. Prescription number 8. Get your calcium from plants. Calcium is a really important soil mineral that our body needs for healthy metabolism, neurological function, brain function, immune function, and yes, to build strong bones. Over the years, we've been educated to think that the only thing we need for strong bones is calcium. But in fact, we need calcium, weight-bearing exercise, vitamin D, protein, sunlight exposure. So over many, many years, we've all been told that the only place that we can get calcium is by drinking milk. Now, in my opinion, as a gastroenterologist, and you can argue with me if you like, milk is for babies. It's a great food for a baby cow. Breast milk is a great food for a human baby. But once we're older than about 24 months, we have no physiological need for breast milk anymore. And we are far better off focusing on things like broccoli, nuts and seeds, legumes, white beans, as a healthy source of protein, fiber, antioxidants, all of the nutrients our body needs. And yes, dietary calcium. I always say that, look, the milk builds better bones is like Guinness is good for you. It's great advertising, but sadly, it doesn't bear scientific interrogation. In fact, multiple studies have shown in the long term, despite everything the dairy industry tells us, milk doesn't build better bones. It doesn't reduce the risk of fractures, etc. And we'd be far better off spending the money that we spend on liters of milk on healthier foods that substantially improve our health. And of course, not to forget that for about 2/3 of the human population, particularly people of non-Caucasian ethnicity, lactose intolerance is almost universal. So people drink milk and they get bloated and uncomfortable. And I see a lot of patients at my gut health clinic who are suffering from bloating and digestive problems. And I say, well, look, you drink a lot of milk and milk is for babies. We get them off the milk and things get back to normal. Prescription number 9, we're nearly there. Hope you're all still with us, is don't forget your sunshine vitamin. Vitamin D is so important for our immune health. Having vitamin D deficiency increases our risk of fracture, cognitive impairment, poor dental health, reduced muscle strength, falls in the elderly, cancer risk at all ages, and poor outcomes in conditions like inflammatory bowel disease. We should all be thinking about our sunshine vitamin, vitamin D, every single day. Where do we get vitamin D? Well, our main source of vitamin D is beautiful, bright sunshine on our bodies for at least 20 to 40 minutes per day. I don't know what the weather's like at Linwoods HQ today, but certainly where I am in South Devon, there is no sunshine on offer. And even if there were, because of my job, I'm indoors most days, so I'm not out in the bright sunshine. In fact, the advice from the Scientific Advisory Committee on Nutrition for everybody living in the UK, and it's the same in Ireland, is that if you spend your days indoors, like most of us do, you should be taking vitamin D, D for Delta, vitamin D, 400 to 800 units once daily year round. If you're lucky enough to work outdoors and you get plenty of sunshine on your body, you would only need to take that during the winter months. Vitamin D, D for Delta, is so important. You may remember during the COVID pandemic, because the importance of vitamin D levels for good immune function, that really entered the headlines, and many places were sending free vitamin D supplements to people during the COVID pandemic. In fact, we should be thinking about vitamin D all the time, not just during a pandemic. Prescription number 10, and this is really important: get help if you need it. This is really important when it comes to gut health in particular, which is my area of expertise. We are so embarrassed to admit that we have a gut health problem. Sometimes we're embarrassed to admit that we have any sort of health problem. Don't be embarrassed. If you think there's something up, if you're worried about your digestive function, or you've got a funny mole, or there's a lump on your back, or your bowel habit has changed, or you're experiencing odd symptoms, make an appointment and go and see your doctor. Discuss it. Discuss it with your family. Discuss it with your parents, your siblings. Because if we don't admit that we're having a health problem, if we don't reach out and get help, then that problem festers, it becomes predominant. And in many cases, if there is something serious going on, it's so helpful to find out about it early, because that can make all the difference when it comes to treatment. So get help if you need it. Patrick, those are my 10 prescriptions for better health in 2024. And I'll throw it back to you. I think we might have some questions coming in.
Yes, thanks very much, Dr. Alan. I really enjoyed those 10 top tips, and thank you for your insights and your advice. I think for me, if there was one piece of advice that really stood out, it's the diversity of plants within the diet. You know, we all know the 5 a day, but the same 5 a day every day is only 5 per week. So really broadening that out is beneficial, and it's something that I'm trying to introduce into my own diet.
Excellent.
So I'm sure all our listeners have benefited and have picked up some things from what you've said and some value. Now, as you mentioned, we do have quite a few questions have come in over the last 20 minutes. Unfortunately, we won't be able to get to them all, so apologies if we don't get to ask your question, but we will get through as many as we can in the next 5 minutes. So the first question we have is from Niall. So he states, I'm a 29-year-old and play Gaelic football at inter-county level with a heavy training load and busy lifestyle. I suffer from ulcerative colitis and Crohn's disease and currently have to use an EpiPen to manage my symptoms. This last 2 years, I have had 2 bad flare-ups which have required hospital admissions. So Niall asks, is there anything specific I should or shouldn't be eating to prevent flare-ups in the future?
Yeah, I mean, Niall, thanks for that question. I mean, I have a huge number of patients in a very similar scenario to you. In fact, Crohn's disease and ulcerative colitis were the conditions that got me interested on the effects of food and diet and lifestyle on our gut health. So that was really the starting point for me 15 years ago. Very much so. In fact, Niall, if you want to reach out to me and send me a message, you can find me on Instagram at Dr. Alan Desmond. If you send me a message, I'm going to send you a bunch of resources that you can share with your treating team and that you can read through yourself, and you can share with your gastroenterologists. It's really important to my mind. Every single patient who's got inflammatory bowel disease should have the opportunity to sit down with a specialist dietitian and talk through their dietary intakes. The headline news is unprocessed, plant predominant has a huge amount to offer patients with inflammatory bowel disease, and it's widely recognized now that all patients with inflammatory bowel disease should be supported in moving as far as possible for them within the limits of their illness to eat an unprocessed Mediterranean diet, which is another way of saying plant predominant diet. Super important. So Niall, if you want to message me on Instagram later, I'll send you a list of resources and publications that you can share with your team.
Thank you. Our next question is from Geraldine, and she states, I have zero energy. My energy levels get depleted very quickly. I crave food, especially early in the day. How do I improve my energy levels?
Well, the first thing, which was prescription number 10, is get help if you need it, okay? And it sounds like you do need some help there. So the first thing I would be doing would be picking up the phone, booking into the GP, and just saying, look, I'm suffering with fatigue. I've got daily fatigue. Really important to get your blood count, your iron levels, your vitamin D levels, your vitamin B12 levels. I talked about all of these during the presentation just now, to get those checked and make sure everything is good. Thyroid health, anemia, B12, folate levels, vitamin D levels, vitamin B12 levels. You don't need to write those down. Your GP will know all about them. So that's the first thing. The second thing is we know that, yes, focusing on healthy dietary intakes is beneficial. And it's not just about one superfood, it's about the whole pattern that we've discussed today. So in a nutshell, when you're filling your shopping basket, you want about half that food to be fruits and vegetables. You want about a quarter of it to be healthy whole grains. You want about another quarter of it to be healthy, mostly plant-based sources of protein, like your legumes, beans, chickpeas, lentils, etc. Learning recipes that can really maximize the antioxidants and the color and the plant diversity, as you're saying, Patrick, on your plate can be really helpful. But there isn't one superfood. It's the whole dietary pattern that is important. But do please make an appointment with your doc and say, look, I've got this daytime fatigue. I don't know what's going on. Can you just make sure that everything's as it should be?
I think we've time for one more question from Joanne, which actually builds nicely on your last comment. Or what's the best way to ensure you're 5 a day when fruit and vegetables can sometimes increase IBS symptoms?
That's right. So if you're not used to eating a lot of fruits and vegetables, okay, so we want to ideally get you to be eating this kind of high fiber, plant predominant diet. But if you've not been doing that for the last 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 or 70 years, and this is a new change for you, often it's a bit like going to the gym, isn't it? You want to, the first few weeks, you want to take it pretty easy. You want to adapt to it. You want to give your gut microbiome and your digestive system a chance to adapt to this new healthy way of eating. So I would usually do a quick screening check with people. 3 simple questions, okay? How many pieces of fruit are you eating every day? How many servings of vegetables are you eating per day? A serving is 2 heaped tablespoons. And how many servings of whole grains are you eating per day? Now, a serving of whole grains is 2 heaped tablespoons, or an average slice of a good whole grain bread. So how many fruits are you having per day? How many vegetables? How many whole grains? Now, if you answer 3 to each of those 3 questions, so 3 pieces of fruit, 3 servings of vegetables, and 3 servings of whole grains each day, then, Patrick, you are just making the recommended 30 grams of fiber per day. So you are then ready for healthy dietary change. However, if you don't answer 3 to all 3 of those questions, then giving yourself a few weeks to gradually build up to the point where you are answering 3 to each one of those is a more gentle way to make healthy dietary change. Because if you try to go from 0 to 60 in one day, it's going to drive some symptoms and some discomfort.
Build it up gradually. Totally makes sense. Dr. Alan, conscious of time, I want to thank you. We've got some fantastic insights there and takeaways, which I hope people will find beneficial. I'm sorry we weren't able to get to everybody's questions today, but do keep an eye out on our social media channels. We will be answering more there in the coming days. Dr. Alan, we're incredibly grateful for your time and sharing your valuable knowledge with us today. And give us your Instagram again, just so people can find you or get in touch.
Oh, if you just go on Instagram and search for Dr. Alan Desmond, this face will pop up, and that's me.
That's great. Alan, thank you so much for your time. I have another thank you to our tech partner, Digital24, for helping to run this webinar smoothly. And finally, a warm welcome to all our listeners. We appreciate you joining us today. We'll be sending out the recording of this webinar and a special 20% discount on Linwoods products to your inbox soon. So stay tuned to our social media for news about our next webinar and even more top tips and nutrition advice to keep you feeling your best every day. So thank you, everyone. We hope you have a wonderful afternoon, and goodbye.